Pasadena is leading the way when it comes to affordable housing, and dozens of local leaders are coming together to find out more. We'll take you on an affordable housing bus tour in this special edition of Arroyo Now. Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Arroyo Now. I'm LaTonya Norton, and right now we are getting ready for an affordable housing tour. Now this tour is sponsored by an organization called Making Housing and Community Happen. And joining us to tell us more about this event and this organization, we have Anthony Manousos. He is the co-founder of Making Housing and Community Happen. Good morning to you.
Good morning, LaTonya. How are you doing?
I'm doing just great. Tell us about this event and why it's so important.
Okay. So first of all, Making Housing and Community Happen is a faith-rooted organization that organizes and equips churches and others to do advocacy for affordable housing and advisement for affordable housing in the Pasadena and greater Pasadena area. Actually, we're going state and even national now. But the reason we're doing this tour is we're very proud of our city. Pasadena has actually produced more affordable housing than most of the cities in this area. And many of the cities are facing the same crisis that we are facing when it comes to housing and homelessness. So we decided to invite the leaders from the San Gabriel Valley to come here to Pasadena and see for themselves how the benefits of affordable housing and supportive housing for people experiencing homelessness.
Are you surprised that Pasadena has come this far? It's like being a model for the rest of the community in terms of affordable housing.
Well, I'm pleased that we're doing this, and I think the reason that we do it is because we come together as a city. The churches, the service providers, the advocates like ourselves, and our elected officials, we all share a common goal, which is stated in our housing element, that every person in Pasadena deserves a decent and affordable home. That's in our housing element. So we have a common goal. We just sometimes have a difference of opinion about how to get there.
Sure.
But we work together in our city, and that's how we've been able to reduce our homeless count by 56% over the last decade, which is really amazing.
That is impressive. Tell me about some of the stops along the tour.
Okay, our first stop is Marv's Place. The city is very proud of Marv's Place. It's a beautiful Mediterranean-style villa in a residential neighborhood that houses 19 formerly homeless families. When they moved in, many of them didn't have jobs. They had very little education. Now, almost all of them have jobs and have gone to college, and some even have master's degrees. So that's the first place. But we're going to go to actually 10 different sites. And we're going to see a variety of affordable housing, some for people with mental illness, some for seniors. We're going to see big, 12-story apartments for seniors. We're going to see beautiful small homes that are affordable. Our city has one of the very, very few affordable home ownership models. So we have a variety of things we're going to see today. It's going to be very exciting and I think very enlightening for people on our bus tour.
10 stops along this tour.
Yeah.
Leaders from different areas in the San Gabriel Valley community. What are you hoping that each person walks away with at the end of this tour?
Well, our campaign this summer is to dispel myths and to provide solutions to our housing crisis. And our hope is that that's what will happen, that some of our leaders may have misconceptions about affordable housing. They may not understand how it's funded, or they may not understand how it benefits the community. We're hoping that those myths will be dispelled. And we're hoping that some of them will go back, as happened in the past when we did this tour before COVID. Some of them will go back and be champions of affordable housing. That's our hope.
That is the hope, and I can tell a lot of excitement surrounding this tour. This has been a long time in the making. Tell us about how many people you're expecting, all of that.
Right. Well, we're going to have over 70 people participate, and over 35 of them are mayors and elected officials.
Wow.
So that was our goal, was to bring those people on board. We also have affordable housing developers, we have homeless service providers, we have a lot of very, what I would call decision makers. That was our goal, to bring those people on board, along with people who've experienced homelessness. For example, Cynthia Kirby was homeless for 10 years. And now that she's been housed, her life has turned around. She's completed her college education. She's reunited with her daughter. And she works for the First Baptist Church. And she's become really an asset to the work that we do.
So success stories, people who were once unhoused, now housed and helping the community, and also those people who are in position to bring affordable housing to their respective communities and make a difference.
Exactly. That's our goal, is to change hearts and minds.
Anything else?
Well, I'm just excited. I'm excited that we had such a good turnout, because it really shows how much people care and how people are really looking for solutions.
Such a good turnout that it seems like you could have gotten 2 buses, right?
Yes, we could have.
Thank you so much, Anthony,
Thank you, LaTonya.
for taking some time to talk to me and let our audience know what's going on, and just thank you for the work you're doing in the community.
Well, thank you for your work, LaTonya. Appreciate it.
And what brings you here today?
Well, we know that homelessness is a huge issue in Southern California, and the problem is we have a lack of affordable housing. So today is all about affordable housing and showing people from various cities throughout the San Gabriel Valley what we have and what are some models for really beautiful, successful housing for people experiencing homelessness or who are just challenged with paying their rent.
Absolutely. And what is the benefit of so many people coming together to witness this firsthand?
Well, I think there are so many misperceptions about affordable housing throughout our district, and this way people can come together and they can share thoughts and ideas, ask questions, and really learn together about the fact that affordable housing is both beautiful and very successful for communities.
And you hear so much when it comes to affordable housing, not in my backyard. A lot of people, as you say, have their own perception or idea about it. This is about dispelling myths. When people come to an event like this, what do you think is the main myth that will be dispelled?
I think the fact people have in their mind, the projects like back in Chicago, these big cement houses, and there's lots of crime and violence. And in fact, what they're going to see today are beautiful homes with people who are just neighbors in the community. And in fact, if you didn't know it was affordable housing, you wouldn't know it was affordable housing.
Absolutely, because when I took a look at all of the different sites, and there will be 10 sites along this tour, you would not know. They blend perfectly into the community. There's no sign out front that says, hey, this is affordable housing. It's very aesthetic, if you will.
Yeah, that's a new model that's happened over the last 20 or so years. I know one example here in Pasadena is Marv's Place. It's actually the nicest building in the neighborhood, and we often get people coming to the door seeing if they can rent an apartment there. And we go, well, this is actually affordable housing. So it can actually lift neighborhoods up.
Pasadena has come a long way in this area, correct?
It really has. They've done a tremendous amount. Of course, Pasadena can do more, but they really have done a lot, and the city should take pride in what we've done so far.
A step in the right direction.
Absolutely a step in the right direction. We need to take some more of those steps, but we have some great models here and things that are very, very successful in Pasadena.
What difference has it made in the unhoused community?
Well, Pasadena is one of the few communities that over the past few years has seen a continual drop. This year we had a bit of a rise, but it was very tiny compared to other communities. So by doing the right thing, by building affordable housing, by providing the proper services, Pasadena has been ahead of almost every other city in California.
And not only that, but not only will we see 10 sites today, but there are also hundreds of affordable housing units coming online as a result of the work that Pasadena has done.
That is true. And I think the other thing that we need to remember is it's not just big buildings that are affordable. We work with landlords throughout the city, in fact throughout the San Gabriel Valley, who are willing to give up their units at affordable prices for people just out of the goodness of their hearts. So we not only have the big buildings, we have scattered apartments all over, hundreds and hundreds of apartments where people live who are maybe have a housing voucher or are getting some kind of support.
And churches play a huge part as well.
Absolutely. The faith community here, especially in Pasadena, has been wonderful. And now with the new laws around you being able to use church and faith lands for housing, we're really excited and really hopeful that we're going to see more things happening over the next couple of years.
Anything else?
One thing I just want to put in there that housing is hugely important, but for our unhoused population, it's also the quality of services that are provided. So when we bring quality housing with quality services together, we end people's homelessness permanently and we reintegrate them back into community. So, we need both here in Pasadena.
Affordable, quality housing, and wraparound services.
That's it exactly. That's what ends homelessness.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Bill, how important is this to the city of Pasadena?
It's important because affordable housing is a regional issue, and so Pasadena can't solve affordable housing crisis or the homeless crisis by itself. We really need the whole region to step up and to do more, and that has been happening over the last several years, and this is just in that effort to try to keep that momentum going.
10 affordable housing sites along this bus tour. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's just a fraction of what we actually have. We have over 4,000 households living in affordable housing today, either through a rental voucher or living in an affordable housing project. And then we're happy to say we have another about 500 units of affordable housing under construction today, and then several hundred more in the pipeline. Hopefully we'll start construction we know 2 projects will start construction in the next 6 months because they're going to get a low-income housing tax credit award. We just found out that there are 2 projects, one in Pasadena and one just outside of Pasadena on North Lake. They both are going to get low-income housing tax credit allocation, so they will have to start construction in 6 months. So we have more coming down the pike.
Wow, sounds like you're going to be busy for a very long time. This is great.
Yeah, we hope so. We have a very supportive city council. We have a very supportive community. A lot of really skilled affordable housing developers and homeless service providers that enable us to keep making progress forward.
Wow, so several hundred more expected to go online at the end of the construction period. As a part of this tour, we have city leaders, yourself, we have developers, and we also have people who have previously been unhoused. How important is it for so many different sectors of the community to be a part of this event?
It's a really important thing, for people to be educated, to know who gets housed and what does that look like, because people have a lot of misconceptions. We were proposing to do a permanent supportive housing project where people who had been chronically homeless would get permanently housed, like the Salvation Army project. And I had a business owner come up to me and say, what are you going to do when they, defecate in my parking lot? And it's like, well, they're not going to do that because they will have their own private bathroom. Well, what are you going to do when they set up a tent in front of my business? Like, well, they're not going to set up a tent in front of your business because they're going to have their own apartment. So, and then you can just see the light bulbs go off. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, maybe this is a good thing to do more housing and get people off the streets and into housing, because then all these quality of life issues that nobody impacts, that nobody likes, will start to diminish. And so education is really a key, and this is an educational effort.
So there are a lot of fear. It sounds like there's a lot of fear, a lot of myths, a lot of misconceptions surrounding the unhoused community. And I just spoke with Ann, who talked about wraparound services and all these things to support the unhoused communities. And you're hearing firsthand people who have apprehension about doing this.
Absolutely, yeah. And the services are really important because we're not just warehousing people, that haven't been housed. People who aren't housed because of other reasons, like untreated mental health or untreated physical health issues or severe economic issues that prevent them from being able to provide their own housing. And so you have to address these other issues. The fact that they are homeless actually isn't a cause, it's a symptom of these other issues. And so the services help to address the root cause issues so that people who we get housed can stay housed, their lives can be stabilized, and they can go on to live very, very productive lives.
Holistic approach, really tackling this issue from every direction. We have to talk about the late councilman. John Kennedy,
Mm-hmm.
who really, one of the sites is going to be Pasadena Studios. We know that was a brainchild
Mm-hmm.
of his. But tell me a little bit more about, what he would be thinking on a day like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you looked at former council member Kennedy's district, his district has by far the most affordable housing of any other council district. So he has been very, very supportive. The council member before him, Chris Holden, had been very, very supportive. He was not only supportive, very supportive of the Pasadena Studios, which is a new concept. It's micro units. Affordable micro units, 180 of them. So it's really a significant project. But he is also instrumental in Heritage Square North and Heritage Square South. Heritage Square South is under construction right now, and that's permanent supportive housing for homeless seniors, because seniors is one of our largest segments of the homeless population and the fastest growing, because seniors are getting priced out of housing because their incomes are fixed. But the housing costs are not fixed. Housing costs keep going up and keep going up at a pretty fast rate. This has been happening for many, many, many years. And so seniors are becoming homeless for the first time in their lives. So he was very instrumental in moving forward Heritage Square South. And so we expect that project will be finished in about maybe 8 or 9 months, and that will open. And that will end homelessness for 69 currently homeless seniors.
What I love is the fact that this tour encompasses not just one type of affordable housing. It runs the gamut. You have the micro units, as you mentioned, but you also have the larger affordable housing units that may be 2 or 3 bedrooms. And then you also have the different segments of the community or sectors of the community, seniors, young people. It really does touch everyone, because so many times there's one sector of the community that falls in the cracks. We even talk about Pasadena Studios. We talked about the middle, the people that kind of fall in the middle. Missing middle. Right.
And so the missing middle are moderate income folks who make more money so that they make too much money, so they're not eligible for most of the traditional affordable housing project, which tries to address the most needy, those who are extremely low income or very low income or just low income, but they're not low income. They're moderate income. They're the teachers, they're the nurses, they're the young professionals, the construction foremen, folks like that. They make money, moderate incomes, but the affordable housing crisis is such that even folks with moderate incomes really struggle to be able to afford the housing here in Pasadena. And so we've done 2 things. One is we were part of a joint powers authority that over the 2 years ago acquired 5 luxury apartment buildings here in Pasadena. These are existing luxury apartment buildings, and we converted them all to moderate income housing. So whenever somebody would move out, every new tenant in there would be moderate income. And so it's 1,000 units that are converted from luxury housing, unaffordable luxury housing, to housing that the teachers, the nurses, the young professionals, our kids coming back from grad school who have a decent job, but who still struggle to be able to afford those kind of rents, will be able to stay here in Pasadena. And then we also on the tour, we're going to see some affordable home ownership units. So this is also for folks who have some income and they can afford not just to rent, but now they can afford to buy a unit. But they can't buy a unit at the median price here in Pasadena, which is probably $1 million for $900,000, $1 million for the median priced home. So we do affordable home ownership here, so folks at moderate incomes, low and moderate incomes, can afford to actually own their own units here and really build roots here in Pasadena.
And we should mention, for people who already have roots here in Pasadena, they have a preference.
Yeah, exactly. So we have in all of our affordable housing projects here, people who live and work in Pasadena have the preference. And we even have a preference for those who have been priced out of Pasadena over the last 10 years. If they want to come back, there's even a preference for them to get the priority for the units, because there's such a demand for all of these projects. And we want to make sure that folks that have their roots here in Pasadena have the first opportunity to get those units.
So they get first dibs.
Correct. That's correct.
Awesome. Anything else?
No, this is an exciting time. A lot of council members from surrounding cities that some have started to do affordable housing. Some want to do more affordable housing. Some want to really address homeless issues. They're here just to see, what we've done, and then how specifically this Salvation Army project was done, because there's a great interest in faith-based properties being used for affordable housing. Well, that's what this was. This was the Hope Center, which will be the last stop on the tour, was developed on Salvation Army owned property. And so they were originally going to do a food pantry and a social service center, and that was great. And so they sent a letter to the mayor saying, will the mayor give us a letter of support that we can use for fundraising when we go out and ask donors to give us some money so we can build our, a new capital campaign to build our food pantry. And we said, yes, but do you realize that your site has development potential? You can have your state-of-the-art food pantry, but you can also help to address the homeless crisis. And so we led them through the process of this is what you can do. You can build 3 stories of housing above, and not only that, but if you agree to do that, the city will be the first one to put money into the project. And they studied it, and they came to the conclusion, we want to do it. And so that's what we have today. They got their state-of-the-art food pantry, but we also got 66 units of permanent supportive housing for homeless individuals, including 16 units for homeless veterans.
I love that. What happens after today? Because there's a lot of enthusiasm, there's a lot of excitement, you can feel it in the air, but how do we keep this going after today?
Well, we end today with a session on how we did this particular project so that other cities can see that it is possible. It's not simple, it's not easy. It takes time, but it is possible. If you form the right team, if you find the right site, form the right team, it can happen. And so we hope that other cities will start to move towards completing similar projects in their community, which will serve the whole region. Right.
Bill Hung, Housing Director for the City of Pasadena.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
What brings you here today?
Well, I wanted to be able to take a look at how Pasadena is utilizing the affordable housing and to see if there's anything that I can take from the tour back to our city in order to be able to put people in the housing.
What is the situation or the status of affordable housing in Monrovia?
Actually, Monrovia is a built-out city, so in order for us to be able to put in affordable housing, we would have to have the necessary funding in order to buy up property and then in turn around and be able to build affordable housing.
Is there a great need for affordable housing?
Yes, it is. Affordable housing is our number one concern.
Explain.
Monrovia has just blown completely up. It's expensive. Prior to the housing boom, the market was down to where it was affordable to purchase homes in Monrovia. Now, the price is hard. A person that has sold their home, it's hard for them to come back and buy a home back in Monrovia and start over again because of it's not the cost of the homes, it's the property that costs a lot in Monrovia. It's the land.
So many people are priced out of the community they grew up in.
Yes. I actually have been living in Monrovia for 68 years, except the time that I served in the Army. I retired from the Army.
And so it's your hope that looking at these different models of affordable housing and 10 different sites that you will find one that fits into your city.
Yes, because once we are able to implement a inclusionary into our planning concept, I think once we do that, we'll be able to, any new developments in the city, 10-15% would have to go towards affordable housing.
Is this something that the community is excited about in Monrovia?
Oh, they're very excited, but as you know, it's a planning process. It takes time, but we'll get there. We plan on getting there. whether it's with the faith-based organizations, because most churches has a lot of property. Maybe we can marry up with them and to be able to build affordable housing on their land. It's all going to be a work in progress, right?
Right, right. And we're all here to learn.
Yes.
To see what suits the respective
Right.
communities.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else?
No, I am just looking forward to the tour, and I appreciate the interview.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
So good morning, good morning. I'm so excited to see all your beautiful, bright faces. And I want to just mention briefly how we appreciate so much the opportunity to partner this morning with the Salvation Army. This is their amazing campus. For those of you, thank you, Salvation Army. For those of you who signed up for the afternoon workshop and lunch, you will get a tour of the Hope Center, which is right behind us, behind me, in front of me. And that's 65 units for unhoused. And so, and behind you, right here, actually to the right, is Silvercrest. And so they also have housing for seniors. Can you imagine a church having this much housing right on their own campus? It really demonstrates their love for the community in a beautiful way. And so my name is Jill Shook, and my husband is here in a minute. We're both the co-founding directors of Making Housing and Community Happen. Bert Newton, who's on our staff. We have a staff of 5 part-time, and Bert is our amazing organizer, so I want to make sure I introduce him when he jumps on. But right now, I want to introduce our city manager for the city of Pasadena. He's standing right here next to me. He is absolutely amazing. I can't believe we get to have him in our city. We are so grateful. So you've got to bend his ear and learn about the amazing work he did before coming here in the Santa Clara County. I used to live in San Jose, and boy, just think that he raised almost $1 billion for permanent supportive housing, which is what ends homelessness. So this man has a heart of gold, and so he's going to give you a warm welcome. After that, Ann Miskey she's the director of Union Station Homeless Services, and then we'll be heading out.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you for being here. I can't tell you how excited I am as I walked around this morning. I met Guillermo already from South Del Monte. I met Karina from Radar, and I saw someone from Diamond Bar. So I hope throughout the day you all stop and we can chat and get to know some of you. And I read this morning all of the project list. And the thing that struck me is to say, this all sounds one paragraph easy. Oh, they got money from here, they put it together, and here's a great project. None of it was easy. It is hard. You got to cobble money together. I want to introduce Bill Wong, who's my director of housing. Bill is responsible for so much, and I'll give one quick story since we're here. As I understand it, correct me where I'm wrong, Bill. Salvation Army came out to us and said, we have a food pantry. Can the city help with the food pantry? And Bill said, yeah, that's great, but you know what? You can do more. You can build 65 units, and they were really, he dreams big, and they dreamed big with him, and you can look at what the dream became. So really, that's all I want to say. Nothing is easy. If I want to buy something on Amazon, it takes me 40 seconds. If I want to buy it through the city, it takes 2 weeks. So imagine building one of these is complicated as all get out, and add all the government entities that are involved. Don't let the challenge get you down. Whatever the challenge is, say, you know what, we'll pivot, we'll find a way. We'll pivot, we'll find a way. You're going to see 18 different projects where we pivoted, Bill and his team, and found a way. So I want to thank Jill, I want to thank Anthony, I want to thank everyone involved, all of you. I know you're doing hard work at home, and Ann doing great work for us, and thank you. Welcome to Pasadena. I look forward to today.
The other powerful aspect is that future rent increases, our annual rent increases are capped at the lower of 3 factors, the lower of, whichever one is lower. Number one, the market rate, because sometimes market rate rents go down. So if market rate rents go down, these people's rents go down. Or the increase in incomes. And incomes usually increase at a slower rate than the rents. So if the rents are going up 10% a year, but incomes are going up only 2% a year, these rents go up only 2% a year. Or in the very worst case, they go up a maximum of 4% a year. So these are very powerful long-term deed-restricted units for our middle income, the middle income segment of our community, because the affordable housing crisis is very broad. Even folks at middle income, moderate income, workforce incomes are struggling to afford housing. We want to keep them here in Pasadena. So as we drive by, all of the units on the left-hand side, on your right-hand side, are part of this missing middle strategy. Plus, we have 2 other apartments on the other side of Pasadena that I don't think we're going to drive by, but they're also similar. Recently built luxury housing that is now deed restricted to moderate income. This is affordable housing preservation, not like historic preservation, but affordable housing preservation, and it's a very important strategy for existing affordable housing projects. Yeah, this was an occupied rehab, so it took a number of years to move folks around to vacant floors, and then temporarily move them back up into their units. But the interior of the units also got significantly rehabbed, of every single unit. Yeah, these are all very low income seniors, so they're 50% AMI and below. Yes. Retirement Housing Foundation utilized tax credits and bonds to finance this particular project. Yeah, and the Retirement Housing Foundation is a national nonprofit organization that does very low income senior housing. That's kind of their niche. So you'll see the Pilgrim Towers, which is also one of the projects we're going to drive by. They are also the owners and operators of that project as well.
I do want to mention that the Retirement Housing Foundation was started with 2 clergymen with the UCC, United Church of Christ, with $7,000. And now they're in 29 states, and so they have served amazing. Downtown LA, they actually helped to create kind of like a tunnel that was part of a whole project to create more land. And on top of that, they built the housing. They're based in Long Beach. Long Beach is their headquarters. Our organization, Making Housing and Community Happen, is now doing a one-day Housing Justice Institute for the city of Long Beach. They are actually the ones organizing that. So I want you to look in your packet and look at the page that talks about the one-day Housing Justice Institutes. And it's very exciting that that's coming together. We're also doing one in Fullerton, down in Orange County. So if this is something you think your city might want to do, encourage the faith community to come together to create a one-day institute.
This one was a city-driven project and a city-funded project. The city provided some of the capital dollars, and also we provide the rental subsidies for the families to be able to afford the rents here. And so the newer projects are smaller in scale. They fit within the community. They're designed to really be an asset to the community. And when we were building this project, we were getting calls saying, "Oh, when are these condos going to be for sale?" It's like, sorry, these are not condos for sale. This is permanent supportive housing, and you don't get one. And this project also, I believe, is a LEED Platinum for those of you who are interested in sustainability.
And Matthew, are you a resident here at Marv's Place?
Yes, I am.
Okay, what brought you here?
So what had brought me here initially was originally I was homeless with my family about 7 years ago. Unfortunately, I had lost my job and I was displaced out of the house I was living at because I wasn't able to pay rent. And because of that, I was unfortunately displaced from my home. So me, my wife, and our 1-year-old baby were homeless. So unfortunately, we had to figure out some way to make it, to figure out what to do next. So unfortunately, we had to go through different shelters and hotels. And finally, we were able to attain a spot at the Family Center, which is Union Station's Family Homeless Services shelter. And we were blessed enough to actually be there. I was there for about a month, and then after that was back to some more hotels. And finally, a caseworker from Union Station had called us and said if we were interested in moving into Marv's Place, which is permanent supportive housing. And from that point, we said yes. And
what difference has this made in your life?
What it's helped me to do is rebuild myself from ground up, from mental health to physical well-being, as well as help adapt my fiance, my wife that is epileptic, and help control and help manage her epilepsy with seizures and medications. And another thing is my daughter has also developed type 1 diabetes. So now being in the permanent supportive housing, it gives us a structure to actually attain services without having to worry about getting kicked out or losing our house because we're not making enough money to pay rent. So they made it here more as simple and ease of the mind to actually keep our housing, feel safe, and actually acquire the different things that we need to be better people for.
So it sounds like it made a huge difference.
It has. What it's helped me do is become the best dad that I can be for my girls, be the best husband that I could be for my wife, and just be here for them and actually provide a roof over their head. And for us to not have to worry about going hotel to hotel, we actually have beds that we can sleep in, and the ease of mind of feeling comfortable and being home. That's what they provided for us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The lot over here was vacant for several decades, and the city has decided to build affordable and supportive housing for seniors on that lot. It did take a lot of advocacy. I came here every week with my friend Bert and various religious leaders, and we prayed in front of the Mac and Jackie Robinson heads, which you can see over there. We had a prayer vigil every Monday for 9 months. And then we went to City Council and we said, we want affordable housing at the Civic Center. And they listened. So I think it is a testimony to the power of prayer and persistence. So I want to just give the mic over to Jill and to Bill Hockey.
So while Phil Hockey is coming up, if you have never spent time reading about Mac and Jackie Robinson, it's rather a sad story in many ways. It's very powerful that our city has produced such amazing folks to break the color barrier, but they were not treated well in our city. We have some deep-seated racism in our history, and it persists in some ways. Later, after his career in sports, he ended up being a builder. He started a construction company to build affordable housing, which I think is just amazing. And his brother Mac, who also was an Olympiad winner, he came back to the city and ended up becoming a janitor. And so I just wanted to mention that before Phil jumps on. We still have great disparity, things that we need to address. Thanks.
In the lot across the street, that's almost a perfect acre, surrounded by a fence, the city has approved National Core, a nonprofit affordable housing development company. The city has approved building 100 units of senior affordable housing. Of those 100, 49 will be permanent supportive housing, very low income, and they'll be serviced by Union Station that provides the social services to help people deal with the issues in their life. And it's going to be about 59 feet high, 100 units. The reason it's taking so long to get it out of the ground is because it's located in this prominent civic center of Pasadena. So more attention is being paid to design of this building. The first stop was Marv's Place. What makes it special, not only does it help homeless families, but it's attractive. It's an asset to the neighborhood. Well, multiply that times 20 and the attention to what this building looks like on Pasadena Civic Center. So a lot of time is being spent on design, and it's going to be powerfully symbolic of the values of Pasadena that Anthony and Jill have espoused, which means for a seemingly prosperous city of Pasadena, for this valuable piece of land, for the city council of Pasadena to say, we want to build housing for poor people, for seniors, and for very poor people. We're going to be right across from City Hall. That demonstrates how inclusive Pasadena is in welcoming all of us to be a part of this city. So it probably won't open for another 4 years. It's going to take 2 years of construction, and then the financing of this facility. Fortunately, Bill Wong and Miguel, I'm looking for Miguel, the city manager, are supportive, which means accessing financing. It's called the ladder of financing. There might be 5 or 6 or 7 different sources from the city, from the county, from the state, tax credits. So the financing is very complicated, but it can be done, and it can create an impressive structure that reflects well on the civic center and kind of the style of the city, but also provides quality housing for people in need.
I just wanted to make it clear that the land that Phil is talking about there, that is city-owned land. That's city-owned land that has been allocated, dedicated to affordable housing. And then we're going to, later on, we're going to see Heritage Square South. That's number 14. That's also city-owned land that has been dedicated for affordable housing. And so the city contributes the land to the development. It doesn't sell it at market rate, but contributes it to make the affordable housing happen. And then the YMCA, which is the tall building right there on your left, next to the vacant lot, that is the old YMCA. It's an old SRO building, which is single room occupancy building. So it's set up like a boarding house where you have, everybody has a private room and a sink, but the kitchens and the bathrooms are shared. That is now 144 units of permanent supportive housing. So the city has 3 existing permanent supportive housing projects, and these are projects that people who are chronically homeless can end their homelessness. You know, nothing ends homelessness except a permanent home. And if somebody is chronically homeless, they need not just permanent housing, but supportive services to be able to stay in that housing. So permanent supportive housing. So Marv's Place was one of ours. That's for families. That's about 50 to 60 people living in that project, even though it's only 19 units, but there are families there. That's one project. And this one's 44 units here. And then we have another family project called Euclid Villa, and that's got another 50 or so people living in there. Those are 3 permanent supportive housing projects. And then we have 2 more that are coming online. One is the Hope Center, and then another one is Heritage Square South, which we will drive by later. And those are, one is 66 units, the other is about 69 units. And then I'm happy to announce that next week, the state is going to award local housing tax credits to another permanent supportive housing project just outside of Pasadena in Altadena on North Lake Avenue. So that'll be more permanent supportive housing projects. So the way to bend the curve on homelessness is to end homelessness by providing permanent housing. And that's what we've got, and a lot of dozens and dozens of units of private housing where folks who were formerly homeless are now living in there with rental subsidies plus supportive services. Okay, so it can be done, and it can be done well. And you know, places like Marv's Place, nobody realizes that is permanent supportive housing for families. So it can be done in a good way that does not detract from the neighborhood, from the quality of life. This project generated a lot of investment back into the city.
Wasn't it like $6 million
Something like that, yeah.
that was generated because of this project?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you all? It's amazing when you require local hires, local contractors, and local materials.
We're investing in this community through this project. It's a beautiful model. If you don't have that policy in your city, make sure you get it passed, because it really helps to bring investment back to your community.
It's just, I think that when the city owns land, it's a lot easier to have the local hire. When the city doesn't own the land, it's a way to restrict development because of the costs, right?
Well, so the way that local preference works is if the city is providing financial contribution to the project, then we could require a certain allocation of local hire and other local benefits. If the city is not, if the city is not contributing to the financing of the project, then it's kind of a best efforts. So anybody can do it as long as they just try. That they can document. Oh, we tried. We may have hit only 7%, but at least we tried. But when we provide financing, the financing or the land is contingent on them meeting those things. And so we've never had an affordable housing developer not meet their 15% local hire. And when it's our land, we issue an RFP for developers, and when we do that, we say, we'll give you more points if you commit to something higher. And as a former affordable housing developer, I know a developer will do anything for a point. So you give them a point, you don't tell them you must do this, so you get points to do it. Okay, I'll sign up for that, and they'll do it.
Awesome.
Once they agree to it, then it's a commitment they need to make.
Could you talk a little bit more about local preference?
Yeah, we have a local preference here in Pasadena for people who live who live in Pasadena, who work in Pasadena, and we have some
20%
standard preference for people that have been displaced by other government projects. Very few people can ever use it. And we added a preference for folks who had lived in Pasadena over the last 10 years, but basically got priced out of Pasadena, but they want to come back to Pasadena. So we have 20% of the units are for that specific preference, for return to Pasadena preference. So, but if we don't have enough applicants for that, then they just go to general preferences.
What was you said it was city land before. What was it before?
It was a series of warehouses. There was an old liquor store, an old laundromat here. There was a church over there, and then there was Church's Chicken, which was still operating on the corner.
You need to have at least 50 units or more typically to apply tax credits. So when I went to every single one of those city council meetings, and even community meetings here. So it was really interesting to watch the entire process over the last 25 years. It's taken a long time to get this going. But one of the things that the city said, we were at the city council till like after midnight, and they decided to make it into two projects. So it's now Heritage Square North, where you are now, and then Heritage Square South. So we'll be going there in just a minute to see a little bit more about Heritage Square South as we cross the street. And Anthony has something he wants to say about that. But before we go there, I want Karen to come up here, who lives here, and tell just a little bit of her story of what it's like for her to get to live here.
So I ended up giving up my apartment and rented rooms for the next 5 or 6 years. And some of that was wonderful. Most of it was okay, but there were challenges as well. So then when a friend actually sent me a write-up that this place was taking members, and at first I actually thought I didn't qualify because they had 3 tiers for, I was working by then, but not in I had been a graphic designer, and so I never did manage to go back to full-time work in that field. I freelanced on and off. But anyway, I was working, and I was afraid I was making too much for this. It's a senior building. I don't know if you knew that. But they were taking people from 55 up. So I was fortunate enough to make it in. I think they had a lottery, and I did qualify. It turned out I somehow made it into the lottery. I don't know how many people were had to be turned away. I have no idea, but it was really lovely. It was a beautiful place. It was wonderful to have my own place again, and we're just adjusting. That people have been great. Heritage Square is great, but we had the same person who I did the intake with getting into the building was our manager and lived right here until about till the last year, and she was really a phenomenon. So we miss her, and we're still adjusting. Nothing negative about the current person, but we just had a really great relationship with her.
So let's give Karen a hand.
So there are, just in terms of amenities here, there are 2 large community rooms, one with a catering kitchen and then another one on the other side. There's a library and a computer center upstairs. There's a community garden space, I think, in the next courtyard. There's multiple laundry rooms and
A little gym.
a gym and like a deck that looks at the mountains. You roll out your yoga mat and you have your your time. You have your own event right there. It's really quite wonderful. And then, as I recall, on this project we had 28 applications for every available unit. So the demand is super high. Seniors are really having a hard time. The homeless seniors that we are seeing, which is growing very fast, these are seniors who are being homeless for the first time in their lives. These are not like, the town alcoholic that has become 65 or 70 years old. No, that person probably passed away in their 50s. These are people that have worked, they've done their thing, but they cannot keep, on fixed incomes, you cannot keep up with the rising housing costs. So seniors really need, and in my own personal view, I think any civilized society takes care of at least 3 categories of people. At least 3. Seniors, right? Anybody opposed to taking care of seniors who work their whole life? No. Seniors, disabled people, and children. At least those 3, right, need to be taken care of by any civilized society. And we're falling short on all 3 of those categories.
So there is an opportunity to get funding to include disabled into the developments you'll be building into your communities. So make sure you do not neglect those disabled. We have several on the tour that are also disabled, and we're so grateful that you're here with us. But we often don't make space for you all. And so we may have more questions briefly for Bill or for Karen, but then Anthony's going to tell briefly about Heritage Square South before we walk across the street. Any questions before? Yes.
One last question. So, do you have any PV on top of the roof?
Yes, this is I think it's LEED Gold. It has photovoltaic electrical power, solar power.
Okay. And I asked that because when we're looking at affordable housing and trying to make the monthly income and what you pay affordable is utility allowances and how those are worked into, worked into that pro forma, if you may.
Right.
So how does that work at this property as well?
Yeah. So there's a strong connection between affordable housing and sustainability, and that's because, exactly as you said, if the operating costs of the project, utilities, et cetera, can be low, then the rents could be lower. There could be more money for services, et cetera. And if we can help a tenant, save $50 a month on their utilities, that's $50 that they use for basic necessities, right? For if I say $50 on I don't know where that money goes, but folks who really need it, that money is important to them, and so there's a great connection between utility costs and affordable housing. So here, the tenants do pay their own. I think what do you guys pay? Electric and gas.
Yeah.
I think they pay their own electric and gas, so they're individually metered for that.
No
gas. Okay, all electric. There we go. We're ahead of the curve here. Probably that's how we get
another
higher
question
sustainability.
here? Yeah.
Who pays for all the wonderful extra amenities besides the economics and stuff, the gym, for instance, and the beautiful landscaping?
Yeah, those are the whole development is paid for by public subsidies. here. And so this used a program called low-income housing tax credits. The city, again, contributed the land. We contributed some cash. And they may have had one other public funding source. So it's those dollars that build the whole thing. And then in the design, financial design of the project, you design a certain amount of operating expenses. And so it comes out of the rents to pay for the operating expenses. So you want to keep those low, but you want to have high quality rents, high quality services. And there are case managers here also to help the seniors, because the seniors have lots of issues, and we want the seniors to be able to age in place here and stay here as long as possible. But this is independent living for seniors.
And the previous manager actually, it's a small gym. It's not large, so it's not a lot of equipment. But she actually had the equipment donated. Yeah.
So the two community rooms here are beautiful, and we've been using them for meetings, and there's a lot of other public meetings, so there's a close relationship with this community and the housing here. And also in terms of the Heritage Square South, and Anthony's going to share briefly about that now as we walk by it, the one that's being constructed. So.
Yeah, I'll be brief, but I can't resist. I always feel really excited when I see this construction next door, because 4 years ago when we started our nonprofit, I learned a new skill, which was community organizing. So at 70 years old, I learned how to bring together people. It was, we did prayer vigil. First of all, I want to say, as Bill pointed out, this land next door was intended for affordable housing, but for political reasons had been not utilized. So John Kennedy, who is an affordable housing rock star in our view, passed away. We loved him.
City councilman.
He was a city council member, brought it up and asked our housing director what was the best use for that land, and Bill said, senior housing for unhoused seniors. You can get the funding and there's the need. But there was some opposition. Not from the community wanted it, but from some of the council members. So we had a 9-month campaign. We had prayer vigils. We gathered 1,000 signatures. We met with all our city council members.
You slept on the sidewalk?
Yes. I slept on the sidewalk, and that was a very educational
other
experience.
religious leaders.
There were about 6 of us, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, there were 2 elderly African-American women who were sleeping at Church's Chicken on those beach lounge chairs.
And it was cold.
And it broke my heart. I had a sleeping bag and a map, which I gave them. Bill said we should take care of our elderly. I agree, children, disabled, but let's all add women. There are a lot of women who are unhoused, and some of them, many of them, are elderly. So anyway, this motivated me. We were successful. The city council approved this Heritage Square South. I attribute it again to persistence and the power of prayer, and I just am so grateful to have been part of that effort.
Yeah. So there may be more questions. Feel free to ask Bill as we're walking. We're going to walk right now down to Heritage Square, not Heritage Square, Fair Oaks Court. So when we go out this door, make a left, and then just keep walking. We're all going to cross the street. We probably won't be able to do it all in one signal. Oh, you can see part of this development. Go right through this hallway. Yes, everyone go down the hallway right now, and then turn right. Thanks.